Started. I will open up the meeting. Thank you all for attending. Today is the West Hartford Public Safety Committee meeting. Today's date is Wednesday, June 7th, and the time is 8 a.m. The committee meeting will be available for live viewing on the WHCI YouTube channel, and this is a virtual meeting. Anyone requiring auxiliary aid or service for effective communication or modifications of policies or procedures to participate in a meeting, service program, or activity of the town of West Hartford should contact Susan Oslander, our ADA coordinator. All right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order, but I am going to take a point of privilege this morning. And I don't want to sound and say again, but unfortunately, we are hearing about and learning about yet another tragedy in Richmond, Virginia, at a high school graduation of all places. So my heart and thoughts, of course, are with the families, with the victims, especially the students, the staff, friends attending, but more importantly, the first responders, because anytime there's a tragedy, we all call 911, and our first responders are always the first to be on the scene and to jump into action and do what they need to do. So please, I just want to pause for a moment and just think about all of those who've been affected and involved. Just indulge me with a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we have our minutes, approval of the minutes for the committee members. I'm not sure if everyone was able to receive and look at those minutes. I would ask for a motion for approval. However, I did note a typo. So Jarida, I will reach out to you after the meeting, but I would suggest that we approve the meeting minutes with the necessary corrections. And this morning, we do have in our presence our Civilian Review Board Chair, as well as I thought I saw some committee members as well present. So welcome. And I forgot, so let me just recognize everybody who's around the virtual table. We have our chairwoman, Olinda Morales, town manager, Rick Ledwith, Counselor Tiffany McGinnis, Counselor Deb Poland, AC Tara, Counselor Alberto Cortez, Chief Riddick, AC Riccabon. We have Chief Priest and his team. I see AC Callahan, and in the background there, I see Emergency Manager Bob McHugh. I see some other faces behind him, and our Mayor Cantor is on audio, and then some others can just briefly introduce yourselves, and then we'll move on to the report by Chairwoman Morales.
Hi, everybody. I'm Will Thompson. I am a new Civilian Police Review Board alternate. And just wanted to introduce myself and say hello, and it's a pleasure to be on with all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and likewise, this is Steve Adler, and I follow behind there with Will, my colleague on the Citizens Police Review Board. I'm a newcomer to this, so really glad I'm here, and thank you for allowing me to participate in this group to support our community.
Thank you, and welcome, Mr. Adler. And I forgot Counselor Winograd. I don't think I said him as well. Okay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Ledwith and Chairwoman Morales.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just in terms of a little bit of history, you'll recall that the board was established by the council back in February of 2021, and with an official effective date of July 1st of 2021. And The board is comprised of 7 members and 3 alternates. We do have at least 3 members. I think we just saw a 4th member join as well. So we have the chairwoman, Linda Morales, Mr. Adler, Mr. Thompson, and I see a 4th here, Mr. Horowitz. Welcome, Mr. Horowitz. And the purpose of the board is to certainly promote public confidence and the professionalism and accountability of the West Hartford Police Department through the unbiased review of the investigation of complaints filed against any West Hartford police officer, to provide timely and fair and objective review of those complaints and the way complaints are investigated, and certainly to promote positive interactions and maintain trust among the community and our police department. So the board, as you know, is required to provide an annual report. This is the 2nd annual report from our Civilian Police Review Board. And through you, Madam Chair, I will turn it over to the chairwoman, Linda Morales, to provide a summary of the 2nd annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here for the 2nd time to present the 2nd report of the Civilian Police Review Board. I'm just going to start by saying that I'm very grateful to the council and to the police department for great work collaboration. The council has provided amazing members. Everyone in the CPRB is very committed to the intent of the municipal code that made us be. So, and the relationship, the working relationship with the police department has been very, very positive. I have nothing but good things to say regarding the reports. They are very well written. They are very professional. They are very objective. And so that was the experience we had the first year when we were getting our feet wet. And this is the same experience we have this year. So I trust that you have the report before you, but I would like to go over just a few things regarding the cases we've done. So we made, between May 2022 and June 2023, we've made 8 times, during which we review 9 reports compared to the year before, in which we review 6 reports. So the reports that we review involve, investigation regarding use of force, one of them, 5 regarding failure to follow procedures, 2 regarding failure to be courteous, and then finally 1 regarding conduct. With regards to all of the 8 reports, if you want me to go over the summary of each of the individual reports, I'll be happy to, but you have it before you. So I will not discuss it at this time. But what I can tell you is that in every one of those reports, we agree, the CPRB agree with the findings and the final recommendation of the police department. So it is consistent with the year before. And we went through every one of those reports thoroughly, everyone. And we also had people from the police department come and answer questions when the members had questions. Again, the reports were written really clearly, professionally. We were all extremely impressed by the work of the police department doing the investigations and writing the reports. So, but what I would like to spend more time is with regards to the 5 recommendations that we had. I'm basically mostly with regards to 2. So, and I would like to premise my recommendations or our recommendation by saying that so far we've been able to discuss with the police chief or the assistant chief and that have come to the meeting any concerns that the CPRB members had with regards to the reports and investigations. And the reason the members are making this recommendation is that if the administration changes and we have a different mayor, we have a different staff at the police department, there is consistency in the way the police department acts towards the residents of the town. So that is the reason the CPRB is asking to make these amendments. Not because we have seen anything with regards to the lack of professionalism, accountability, being responsible, or following the standards established by the police department at all. We have not seen anything like that so far. So with regards to the first recommendation, the members of the board find that the word completeness and thoroughness are redundant. They feel that it means the same, so they are recommending that the word completeness be removed from the from section 5-132 of the municipal code. So in place, we are recommending that the term outcome be placed instead. Okay. And the reason for that is that we recommend adding the outcome in the case of investigation when the investigations meet the objectivity, thoroughness, and accurate standards, but the board disagrees with the final outcome of the report of the police department. And then, as I said, we haven't seen any discrepancy between the reports and the outcomes and the findings with regards to the standard. This is just in case it happens in the future. And then the second, I would say, significant recommendation that we have is that to the extent that the CPRB remands a completed internal investigation report to the police chief, and the police chief disagrees with the recommendations of the CPRB, we would like to get a written rationale of the reasoning of why the police chief is rejecting the CPRB's recommendation. I think those are the most significant recommendations that we have, but we also have three other recommendations. So which, by the way, the police chief and his staff has basically done this. We have requested this during individual meetings, and they have complied with that. So with respect to subsection B, it says that the board requests that the investigation reports continue to indicate the presence of any potential bias, meaning that if the investigator of the case is related to a witness or to the respondent or so on, the reports state whether there is a relationship or a potential bias. We also make a recommendation regarding having the police department provide the CPRB the reports within 7 days before the meeting, so that the member has sufficient time to review the reports. We also requested that for every meeting, we know the number of pending complaints since the meeting before or the prior meeting, and we would like to know the status of incomplete reports. Finally, the last recommendation is that the police department continue to appraise its CPRB of any new policies or standards that they are implementing, so that we become aware. Because as you know, we have a educational or continuing education requirement for the CPRB members. So we would like to, continuously be aware of any changes in policy or procedure, so that we continue to do our best work and evaluate the reports objectively. So basically, those are our recommendations. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chairwoman Morales, as well as all the committee members that are present on the call this morning and the ones that are not. I've read through this report, and this report is quite thorough. And looking at it, you can tell that you all have done your due diligence and put a lot of time and effort in this report. And it's clear that you are working with the PD leadership to put all of this together. So I thank you. And before I ask any questions, I'm going to turn it over to the committee members and ask, do you have any questions, or other councilor members are on the call? Councilor Cortez?
Madam Chair, I just want to say thank you to the committee for all the work you guys do. As you know, echoing as what Madam Chair said, it's very thorough report, well thought out, and to see the relationship that you guys do have with the PD, it's in such a little period of time, short period of time, it's pretty impressive. So thank you guys for what you're doing. That's all.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. Madam Mayor, do you have any questions or comments?
I just want to also just reiterate my thanks to the time and the effort and the tremendous commitment that CPRB has made over this short period of time. And I think you've made tremendous progress. And Chairwoman Morales, thank you for your leadership. Thank you to all the members for volunteering your time for this important role. And I think the recommendations are really good looking into the future. We want this to be systemic change, actually, that it works so that, we, even though there are interactions and personalities now, we want to make sure that those dynamics don't change, that there's a lot of trust with the community. And I think that these changes just build on that. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chairwoman Morales, my question is just a simple one, and it was sort of answered, or it was answered in the report, but I'm just curious to learn with the new members coming on board, as current members step off, and then your alternate members. And I did see when they come in, the period of time that they train. So can you just speak to perhaps the cohesiveness or the collaborativeness of the committee members in terms of the ones that started from the outset, and then as the changes occur with the new members coming on board?
Well, yes, we do have at least 2 or 3 new members, and we are very pleased that every one of them has already done the training and participated in the meetings. So they are like, they're catching up very quickly. And one of the things that I have asked from the members, that even the alternates that are not regular members, is that they attend every meeting so that we continue being aware of what is going before the CPRB every day, because reviewing reports and listening to the comments and participating in the meetings is a training. It's part of the training. So they've been doing that. All of the members have been doing that. Alternates and regular members, as well as new and the older members, they continue to attend every meetings unless there is an excuse for not attending. So I think that is working great. I hope that the new members feel, comfortable participating. It looks like it is. They're here too. So if they have anything to add, you're welcome to do that. But that's what we've been doing. I've been asking everyone to attend the meetings, regardless of being alternates or regular, so that we continue becoming more experienced at reviewing the reports. Because PD matters are very technical. From speaking as a layperson, I wasn't familiar with PD procedures, and many of us do not come from that field. So I think that part of attending the meetings regularly is for the training. Is for training, so that people can just kick in when one of the regular members is missing.
Yeah, and I'll just add as well. Stephen Adler and myself were part of or took part in the orientation on Monday, hosted by AC Terra. So that was wonderful as far as just getting background and getting up to speed on some of the training. So thank you, AC Terra, for that. I'll also be at some point participating in a ride along as well.
Yeah, I echo as well, Madam Chair. My colleague Will, AC Terra, took us through the conduct and policies and procedures of the PD. We also had the great experience of going through understanding FOIA once again, which is a great experience, but an experience with corporate counsel. So the training has been definitely enlightening and helpful.
And I would like to add that we are having a training for everyone, for every member in the June meeting. We will be doing continuing education for everyone.
Okay.
And also one more thing, I forgot to mention earlier that we also came up with our bylaws this year. So which was one of our members who is present, Matthew Horowitz, took the leadership when writing the bylaws. So we're happy that we now have bylaws.
All right. Sounds very good. Thank you. Thank you both, Mr. Adler and Mr. Thompson. Okay. I think that's fantastic. Definitely have a good working group, and sounds like, and based on your report, that you all are doing wonderful work, and the collaboration between the review board as well as the PD is fantastic. So thank you again for all the work that you're doing.
You're very welcome.
All right. Okay, so if there's no other questions or comments, Mr. Ledwood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to mention what the process would be as we move forward. As the couple of the recommendations that Chairwoman Morales summarized will require a change in the ordinance. So what we will do likely is that in the July meeting, we would present those recommendations to change the ordinance and refer them for a public hearing in August. That's our plan right now to set the schedule to make those modifications. Now, Chief, if you wanted to comment on any of those recommendations as well. I had an opportunity to speak with Chairwoman Morales and the Chief, and I'm fully in support of these recommendations and look forward to working with the council to make these changes to the ordinance. Through you, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to the Chief.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone. To Chairperson, Attorney Morales, thank you for your leadership. And for those who were here from the public who have not had an opportunity to attend the meetings, we've been very professional and have been very kind and very nice things said about the police department. But I don't want the public to be misunderstood or get the feeling that we were not held accountable. This committee asked some very poignant, difficult, and appropriate questions. They were fair and consistent, and they were not attacking. They just asked very good questions. And some of the questions, one of the purposes of having the CPRB was have an outside, civilian look on things, because when you become insulated in how you do things, sometimes you miss things. And one of our discussions that we had as far as relationships, there's officers who are either married or their siblings, and we did not note that in our report because we knew who it was. And we had a good conversation as to the implications of that by not disclosing that. And it was nothing we were doing to be subversive or to hide anything, none of that. And through Chairwoman Morales' comments, as well as the rest of the board, it's like, wow, that's a really good point. So now in all of our reports, as she mentioned earlier, we notate and we note any relationships, whether they're dating, just so people have a context of the people that we're discussing, the officers we're discussing. So I want to thank them for that. Regarding the recommendations, I would like some clarifications, if I could, from the CPRB. Regarding the policies and procedures, there's sometimes we have some minor changes, which I'm not so sure is relevant for us to put out every single change to the board. What we have been doing with the charges that are relevant to the reports, we've been providing the corresponding policy. Is that okay going forward? So if there is a change, the change would be in the policy that corresponds with the IA report. And is that what you were specifying? Or just for clarification, every single change in policy in the PD, that you like a copy of that? If you can clarify that for me.
Chief Riddick, I think, honestly, I think the CPRB membership thought it would be every little change, but I will bring back your concern to the CPRB members for the next meeting and ask. I think I would, I think if there were minor changes, you don't have to do them, but I don't want to speak for the full board. So I will bring that back to the board. But I think so far it's been working well, because for every report that you have submitted to the CPRB, you have included in your reports the standard, the policy standard that was allegedly violated. So it's working so far. But in any case, I will bring it back to the board.
Okay, just wanted clarification with that. And then secondly, some things dealing with tactics, our ESU team and some other procedural things, I would not be submitting that. And I believe that's also exempt from FOIA for obvious reasons. And there should be no issues, with that. I think everyone understands why that would be the case. And secondly, when we come to the written explanation, if I disagree or the chief disagrees with the CPRB findings, I do have an issue with that. I think the internal affairs report speaks for itself, and I think any explanation I can provide, and normally I attend all the meetings, let's have a conflict. So I would be there, as we've done before, because we've had disagreements on that. So I think a verbal explanation should be sufficient. I'll explain to you my concerns with a written explanation. Sometimes this leads to discipline. And if we get into me creating another document, going to arbitration, and we have another entity that disagrees, which is reviewing our internal affairs, that could lead to problems. And if you could recall, there was one of the meetings when we had the union attend, and we had one of an issues with an officer, and we had difference of an opinion, and I pretty much had to lay out my case, early in the game in front of the union. So I think we discussed that, and that's not the intent here at all. I understand your concern, but I do think a verbal explanation by myself or one of my, no less than an assistant chief, if I have a significant conflict, I have no problem with that. I understand why that should be done. And I also understand, the legacy of whether the next chief or the next town manager or the mayor who might see differently. It makes a ton of sense. And I just hope you can indulge me on those suggestions.
Chief, I hear your concerns, and I will definitely pass them down to the board.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Riddick, and thank you, Chairwoman Morales and Mr. Ledwith. Is there anything else for Chairwoman Morales in terms of a question or comment from any of the committee members or any of the council members? All right, if not, we will move to thank you again, Chairwoman Morales and the committee members, and to the entire committee again for all your work and as you continue to do your work.
Thank you for having us. Very nice to see you. Until next year, I guess.
Same here. Good seeing you as well. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
Bye-bye. You too.
Thank you. Okay, so the next order of business that we have, number 3, is communications. Mr. Town Manager, do we have?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick update, I guess, for lack of a better word. So we are, as you know, in the middle of a very special time in West Hartford. When you think about everything we're in the middle of happening and about to happen in terms of community events. So we had Memorial Day 2 weeks ago. We had the Caribbean American Heritage Festival last weekend. We have Celebrate this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We have Juneteenth the following Saturday, and we have the Pride Festival that last Saturday of June 24th. So not sure you'll find a city or town in the state of Connecticut that has as much going on week after week after week as we do here in West Hartford right now. So, and I just wanted to take a moment. Obviously, there's a ton that goes into coordinating logistically all of these events. Certainly a big part of what we need to do is keep our community safe and allowing tens of thousands of visitors to and residents to join us at all of these festivals. So I wanted to thank our police department in advance and in the middle of, as well as our fire department and their personnel for providing that blanket of safety that we sometimes all take advantage of here, or take for granted, sorry, here in West Hartford. So at every one of these events, you're going to see a very visible presence from our PD and FD. And as much as we see visibly out there walking around engaging with our residents and visitors, there'll be just as many behind the scenes ensuring that we keep West Hartford and these events as safe as possible. So a big thank you to them. And a big thank you to our community emergency response team led by Bob McHugh. The first couple of weeks of the first two events that I mentioned, and then as we move forward, you're going to see a lot of folks walking around in green t-shirts. Those are our volunteers who dedicate their time to CERT, to support these events and the public safety that's occurring at all of these events. So a big thank you to Bob and his coordination and leadership and providing that volunteer aspect to everything that we're doing in town. So just a big thanks to all those folks. And that was it for me this morning from a communication standpoint. I will turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Are there any questions for Mr. Ledwith from the committee members or town councilors? Okay. All right, so we will move right into staff reports, and Chief Priest and your team are up with the fire department update. I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. How's everybody doing today? The town manager has obviously been reading my notes because he's just covered the most significant things that I have there. So that's great. We're talking about special events, recognition for our staff. I'll just hit a couple of brief things on our written report that's been submitted. First of all, I'm very pleased to announce the retirement of Deputy Chief Bassett, who is in the office. And there's been a kind of an interesting movement right now as a result of some of these announced retirements. Chief O'Callahan has agreed to stay on the department. So I'm personally and professionally very, very pleased for our organization and selfishly for me, because we have an outstanding leadership team. So he'll be remaining with us. So thank you, Chief.
My pleasure, sir.
In the interest of, moving kind of quickly through my report, I did just want to say, whenever we're dealing with staffing, we're always trying to be proactive with filling our vacancies and with ensuring that we have our the right leadership in place as well. So we actually have two candidates already identified. Both will be attending the academy. That will cover our existing vacancy as well as the one that will be created as a result of Chief Bassett's retirement. We will also be making a promotion. We promoted Rocco Lodato to lieutenant, and we'll be running a deputy chief's test as well as a lieutenant's test. So we're looking forward to seeing new leadership coming into our organization. As far as emergency incidents, last month I reported on a rope rescue incident, and then there was some media on a fairly significant fatal motor vehicle accident out on the highway. Thought that it was a good time just to kind of reinforce the all hazards nature of the fire department, that rescue and technical rescue are really part of our core as well. We talk a lot about fire and EMS, but those are critical skills for us as well. gives us an opportunity to look at the equipment that we have and the training. And, Chief O'Callahan uses a term that, often, which is we're always trying to lean forward into things. So whereas, we watch some of these incidents, perhaps in New Haven, where there's a construction accident and you're seeing that their technical rescue capabilities are used. Here in West Hartford, we're trying to be ahead of it before the incident happens as well. So we've had some recent training with our members. They're completing rope rescue technician training. You may have seen us out on Park or Trout Brook the other day, or working off of one of our parking garages. But it just evidences that we're really trying to make sure that we're increasing the capabilities of our department in accordance with the target hazards that we have in our community, which is growing rapidly. We have some other notable projects and activity just to discuss, which is that we've completed our host community drill. So that is the summation of a lot of work on behalf of many stakeholders across town. Kudos to Bob and his team. I also have Bob Tilborn with us, who is in the back, who's also one of our part-time staff members who does help run our CERT team. So that acknowledges the town manager's comments. They're doing some outstanding work. They were a great part of our host community along with other folks. We haven't received an official report from FEMA yet, but in discussions with our team, when the state sends out to all the residents of the towns who would be coming to West Hartford, that West Hartford is where they're going, that indicates to us that we were successful in our host community drill. But I will provide more on that as I hear officially. Lastly, the gentleman behind me is our community support officer, Andrew Eccles. Much like many folks in the fire department, they don't like to be recognized for the things that they're doing, but Andrew is an outstanding asset to our organization. He's recently coordinated, along with other staff from different divisions, several high school programs, working in collaboration with our police department. We are at Conard and Hall. Very successful, very popular events, showing the youth the career opportunities in this field, as well as just engaging our community. Andrew's also responsible for putting together our operational plans for the events that the town manager has talked about. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. So we dragged him into the office today to thank him for that, which he really does not appreciate us, but it's part of it. So lastly, as I kind of close out, I just tell you, certainly we're watching the smoke from the wildfires issue. It's a clearly an international issue because it's coming from Canada. And I would just call to your attention that this truly is, a multi-divisional type problem. So if, we would need fire marshals to help prevent these fires, to investigate the fires, should something large scale like this happens. This is our Office of Emergency Management, as well as our firefighters and EMS. And we're now watching some of the health effects of that. So our paramedics will probably be at work with some air quality issues. But it's a good point to just show that we have to be all working together towards that blanket of safety, like the town manager discussed. And we're proud to be part of the organization that's helping do that. So with that, I'll see you at our next Public Safety Committee meeting. We'll be talking about the after actions for some of these events. And that's what I have for you today. So thank you. Glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief Priest, for that thorough report and informative report. Does any of the committee members have any questions for Chief Priest or any of the? Okay, go ahead, Councilor Cortez.
To you, Madam Chair. Since we have Andrew Eccles here, I would like to acknowledge him last meeting, but he wasn't here in person, so I acknowledge him now. I want to say thank you for what you do in the community. I did one of his hands-on CPR at Berkshire Hathaways, and it's a great service that you guys provide, and that's what I love about our West Hartford community and what you guys bring to the table, whether it's the fire department or the PD, just making us better in that way, and all the training that we see throughout, for town, and people notice this stuff. So thank you, Andrew, for what you did.
Thank you, Councilor Cortez. Any others have any questions or comments? Councilor McGinnis.
Through you, Madam Chair. I just wondered, with the smoke, the way it's been the past couple days, especially yesterday, had there been any calls from people in the town, like with breathing problems or anything like that?
So I'm looking over at Chief O'Callahan. We're just discussing it, that we haven't seen anything come into headquarters right now that's directly correlated to that. Our call volume seems to be fairly consistent. We haven't received any smoke calls that have made it down into administration either, but we're certainly watching it. We know that this is going to be an issue for us, but we believe that our on-duty staffing is appropriate and prepared for the emergency should they get called in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor McGinnis. Any others with any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, this is Mayor Cantor. I just want to reiterate what the town manager said, and actually Chief Priest, there's so much planning that goes behind the scenes in preparation, from the community events that we have that make our community a vibrant community, vibrant and dynamic. And there's so much. And I've had the honor to be able to see it, to walk into, the mobile crisis units, or to see so much of and to hear so much of what's gone on. So I just really want to reiterate the fact that the reason that we are able to celebrate in such a wonderful way is because of the work that happens ahead of time, and then obviously throughout the events that happen. I will add, there was a Japan festival this past weekend as well, and it just is so much going on. So thank you to everybody that makes that work like clockwork. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So I do have a question, Chief Priest, for Mr. Echols in terms of what's he seeing out on the high school front, if you will. When you do go out, what is the, I guess, either reaction or as the high schoolers come up to the table, what kind of questions? Are they excited? Do you see a difference from year to year? And I ask that question because I started off in the healthcare field as a respiratory therapist in terms of the technical area, and then advanced. And I do know that in terms of education after high school is becoming increasingly more expensive. So many families and students are also looking at some technical field before they decide whether or not they want to invest in going into college. So can you just speak to some of the questions and comments that you receive as you go out?
Absolutely. This was my first year doing this. I took over from Matt Traver last year, who did it at Conard, and this year we did it at Hall and Conard. I think we around had 500 to 600 students come out during the lunch waves, and most of them were just interested in having an opportunity to be part of what we do on a day-to-day basis here in the fire department. So we gave them options to either, use the fire hose, or maybe talk about what to do on a medical call. And we actually had like a little a PT test, what I called it an obstacle course, to give them a little insight of what it's like to be a firefighter. And I think that opened up an opportunity for them to ask questions on how to become a firefighter. And that's what all our personnel was there for. It was answering those questions and giving an opportunity, because not every, student wants to go to college. And this is a great profession to be in. So that was my goal for those two events.
Thanks, Counselor, for that question. We appreciate it. Also, it's awesome to have you be able to interact directly with our staff who are out there seeing this, field level. Chief Riddick and I always talk about being the ones who are speaking for things, but it's great to have you be able to engage. Just Chief O'Callahan and I were talking before. It's one of the reasons why we go out in partnership with the Office of Emergency Management, law enforcement, and bringing our different divisions, is because those questions are varied. So our fire marshals are out there discussing whether or not it's fire safety. There's so many options for a student to be able to engage our different personnel and to look into a career track, in public service and public safety. And as you and I discussed the other day, just as an aside, we certainly have a very robust discussion with our high schools and our superintendent to really find out how we can best support and encourage youth to come into the public service field.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Priest. Another question I had, just looking at the report, I think there was an issue at the Isham Garage. And I often wonder, and especially now that I'm walking more in terms, and this probably is a collaborative effort, I would imagine, between fire and maybe building inspection as we build garages and we have multi levels and they kind of create something for someone who may be having some mental health issues in terms of um, building, I don't know if it would be called fences. You all would probably know the better word for barriers in terms of something like that, that would be preventative in terms of somebody thinking about jumping or anything like that. Can you speak to that at all?
Could have Assistant Chief O'Callahan handle that one for you, ma'am.
So when we do our pre-planning, we look at situations like that and we're prepared to respond afterwards. Certainly that's more of a technical fix that would require an examination of the garage while it's being built. Would be the easiest time to do it. And the University of Connecticut Health Center just recently did something with that with their garage. So if that is a concern, we could certainly work with the fire marshal's office and the building inspectors to see if some of our garages, say over 3 stories, when they're going up now, are required to have some kind of fall protection from the elevated platforms. But certainly we can look into that while they're being built.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
For that. All right. So any other questions or comments before we move over to Chief Riddick and his team? Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Chief Riddick, and your team for your report.
Okay, again, good morning, everyone. And first, I want to congratulate the fire department. It's my understanding there's legislation that was passed in the legislature that would expand health care to cover cancer for officers, firefighters who are working in the field. So I believe that was signed. If I'm incorrect, Chief, please correct me. And just to thank you guys for the efforts that you had regarding that. I believe Chief Priest and others were part of committees to help get that legislation passed. And I think that's really, really good that occurred. So congratulations to you folks regarding that. Secondly, on the PD side, I'm just going to highlight a few things. Our written report has been submitted already. Dealing with pistol permits, May of 2022, we had 32 requests. In May of 2023, we're down to 17. Breakdown of those were 11 men and 6 women. Year to date, 2022, 111 pistol permits. Year to date, 2023, we're down to 79. Motor vehicle accidents. In May of 2022, we had 222 motor vehicle accidents and 194 motor vehicle stops. In May of 2023, we have down to 152 motor vehicle stops, 152 motor vehicle accidents and 487 motor vehicle stops. So that's a decrease of 31% of motor vehicle accidents and an increase of 150% of motor vehicle stops. So well done by our personnel. Year to date, in 2022, we had 1,514 motor vehicle stops, and year to date 2023, 3,550 motor vehicle stops for an increase of 134% year to date. One thing that gets one division that we have here that gets overlooked until something occurs, bear calls or animal calls, is our animal control division. If you've probably noticed recently, the last couple of months, I've included their stats just for FYI. So our animal control division had 480 calls for service in May of this year, and they issued 35 verbal warnings, 1 written warning, and 4 town ordinance violations, and they also issued 3 state infractions. Some interesting facts, some fun facts. They impounded 3 dogs, 4 cats, 3 ducks, and a partridge and a parakeet. I'm sorry, and three parakeets, and three parakeets. And 4 dogs and 1 parakeet were redeemed by their owners, and 7 animals were adopted out to rescue organizations or to new homes. So that's really good work by Animal Control Division. They're out there working hard, responding for quality of life issues and to keep our citizens and our pets and animals safe. Madam Chair, you had mentioned, suicidal complaints and everything else. On the east side of the Memorial Garage, there are plates put up that behind the police department. I believe they were done historically. I believe that was done for safety as far as people with weapons, but it is things that could be done as part of code. I think suicide barriers or prevention things would be nice and helpful. I do not believe they're on the top level of the ramp, so if you go to the top level, it is accessible. But I think there's some things that could be built in as a requirement. So that would be very, very helpful there. To that end, one of our officers, a few months ago, we had a missing juvenile that we searched for. In previous times, using some intelligence and conversations with folks, our officers did a good job, and they found the individual at one of our ramp garages that I won't name, and that individual was contemplating jumping, and our officer was able to talk that juvenile down and to take him into custody and get them the help that they needed. So your comment, was right on point and very timely, Madam Chair. A couple of updates, from some past cases. If you recall, back in 2020, we had a very troubling kidnapping. It was a robbery that occurred at a local establishment. One of the owners and somebody was laying in wait. Long story short, we found the individual, was found wandering in Hartford. Do excellent police work by the West Hartford Police Department, specifically our Detective Bureau. We really much had nothing and pieced together, license plates and cameras and interviews and a collaboration with the Hartford Police Department. We were able to make an arrest with that. And one of the individuals involved, Mr. Juan McCrae, just took a plea deal in which he's going to get 10 years. So that's a plea for 10 years. So that tells you how strong that our case was. And kudos to our personnel for that. And he has, in addition to that, 5 years of special probation upon his release. Some of the charges were cruelty to person, conspiracy to commit robbery first, conspiracy to commit robbery first, conspiracy for larceny first, robbery first, assault second, kidnapping first with a firearm, conspiracy for all the above charges, and unlawful restraint in the first degree, as well as assault first. This was a huge case and very troubling, but for this to come to fruition with the arrest and subsequently for someone to plea says a lot. It really, really does. So kudos to that. Earlier and last year, we had a shooting in the area of Fairview, and we were able to identify a person who was currently incarcerated. That individual we are pursuing just submitted an arrest warrant May 26th of this year for the following charges. And again, this warrant is pending. Criminal possession of a firearm, criminal attempt at assault first, illegal discharge of a firearm, reckless endangerment first degree, risk of injury, breach of peace, and reckless endangerment. So a lot of good stuff done there by our personnel, a lot of good legwork with that particular call. And again, really, really good work. And then lastly, we had a commercial burglary that occurred. And again, good work by our detectives working with the Hartford Police Department. Our personnel were able to get prints and lift the prints and able to use those prints to identify a suspect. And that person has been charged with a $40,000 bond with a warrant. And his charges are burglary, breaking and entering, and theft from a building and theft from a motor vehicle. So that's just a summary of a really good work that goes on. Although some of these charges and these incidents are alarming, we do not, as you've often heard me say, we do not live in a utopia. There are people out there who have bad intentions. There's people out there who don't respect the law, which is why public safety is important. But that being said, our town is safe, and our officers, our detectives, and our collaborations with some of these task forces that we're part of, and our collaboration with Hartford and their ability to assist with their cameras and technology is very, very important. So kudos to our personnel, and I thank you for your time and commitment. Oh, one more thing regarding Celebrate. I also want to, thank DPW as well as Helen's folks too. There is a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and some of the discussions that I've had with the town manager in this, I hate to say his new role, but as he transitioned over, we had some discussions to see what actually it entails and the things that you don't see and the amount of legwork that has to be done with the op plans and the like, just to make sure everybody is safe and secure and has a great time and just enjoying our wonderful town. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Chief. First, before I thank you and team, are there any questions for Chief Riddick or any comments? Councilor Cortez?
Through you, Madam Chair. Chief, I know we talk about this, a couple times a year, and it's starting to warm up. So with the ATVs, motor, if there has been any increases, I know I had a report from one of the residents, they were concerned because they saw them through the center. And even though there was, police in the area, they didn't see action. And I know how dangerous it is to pursue, and that's one thing we don't do because it's more of a risk to the public. But I was just wondering if there has been an increase in volume and calls. I know there's some task force, and if there's been activity, within those task force, as we start going into summer.
Thank you. To say there's an increase, there's going to be an increase from the winter to now. So people are going to see them because, just like the spring comes, so does the ATVs and the dirt bike people because it's warm weather. So they're going to notice that more. To your point, we don't pursue them. And it's a dead end, no pun intended, and it's not going to end well regarding that. Also, as you recognize, we have people in the Greater Hartford Auto Theft Task Force. There's also another task force that's been spun up to deal with the ATVs and the street racers. We also have an officer assigned to that. We have an officer assigned to the statewide narcotics, as well as the FBI Violent Crime Task Force. So we are out there, and the crime enforcement and prevention mechanism that you use is intelligence. You try to find out when they're gathering, where they're gathering, who are they gathering with. Most recently, well, I can't say that. There's some things going on I can't talk about, but we do have some things going on. There was some arrests that were made on Kane Street about a couple of weeks ago with some things. So we are working on it. So what we ask from the public, because you would know a lot of this, the public would more than we would. If you know who some of your neighbors are, who are riding the ATVs, and a lot of these folks coming from out of town, we understand that, but sometimes it's local. If you know where people are gathering, if you can provide that information to us, you can do that anonymously. Then we can set up surveillance, and then if they're at a certain location, we can just corral them, and then whoever takes off, they take off. But we're able to gather some people and slap them with fines, as well as confiscate their vehicles or their ATVs. So we are working on it. It is a huge quality of life issue. We haven't seen a significant uptick. I don't want to speak too soon, but it just comes with the season. Thank you. And it's a
Thank you,
collaboration
Chief.
with not just us, it's Hartford, it's us, Avon, Simsbury, Farmington. We're all working together, Newington.
Thank you, Chief. And then I just one more thing. I know I think last month we put no trespassing sign on certain areas, and then we have to remove it due to confusion with pedestrians. Are we considering like rewarding it somehow? It's just we never know what's the right way to approach things. But I'm a fan of having a sign, but what is the right wording for a sign? For a year or two, I would love to suggest a sign. I just don't know what that would look like without having a big billboard there, to kind of cover everything. And
Thank you. And thank you for bringing that topic up. First, that decision for the signs was made unilaterally by me. I did not consult with the town manager. I did not consult with the mayor, nor did I consult with the town council. Looking back, I should have, but my mindset was I did not anticipate the backlash of some of the misapplication of the sign. That tells you how innocent that our work was. People conflated this with a panhandling issue. It had nothing to do with panhandling. People conflated this with the constitutional right issue when all it was public safety. It had nothing to do with panhandlers at all, because as you know, they can just go 50 to 70 feet to the left or 50 to 70 feet to the right, and they were still standing right there, able to exercise their First Amendment rights. So I do think there was a segment of folks who wanted to look for a fight where there wasn't one there. I want to remind this body this morning, as well as council and anybody else who's listening, we had a fatality that occurred right at that intersection, a pedestrian in which the woman drove over the island and struck signs, knocked them down, poles, and then went across the street into the green, and unfortunately killed someone who was legally standing in a position where they could be and not in the street, and was killed. So in our conversations internally and with my final decision with that is I felt that we had to take some action. Some action's better than no action. And I posed this scenario today, as well as I've done to other folks individually. If the Girl Scouts were on that very same island, um, soliciting with cookies, and cars were stopping and everything else, I would have a very difficult time believing people would not have a problem with that. I have a very difficult time that people would not think that was not safe. So if it's not safe for Girl Scouts to be standing there, then why is it safe for anybody to be standing there? So that was the issue. Part of our plans and discussions going forward is what can we do not to cause confusion. So what the unanticipated consequence of the sign was that when folks were walking in the crosswalk, they thought it applied to them. So then they were stopping in the middle of the road, which you didn't want them to do, looking at the signs and everything else. So we are trying to think of some environmental friendly measures, whether it's a redesign, whether it's planters, there's some other things there. There's a bunch of things on the table to fix that so that everyone can be safe and that people can exercise their First Amendment rights or whatever it is in a safe location. And I hope that answers your question.
no, it does. And as you stated, it's not just for one thing, it's for others. Saw some people gathering there, I think over the weekend. It was a Sunday morning, so it didn't seem too dangerous, but if it would have been in the afternoon, those same people gathering there could have created an unsafe situation. And that's usually my concern with some of these intersections where it's funny, panhandlers are attracted to those areas due to the traffic. But like, as you stated, it's not about their action. It ends up being a safety issue. There's one particular one on the Bishop's Corner, and sometimes because of the little islands there, end up kind of hovering in the road. And I think it's intentional to hover, but my fear is that one day, what if something happens to that individual? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cortez. Any other questions or comments from committee members, Councilor McGinnis, or any councilors that are on the call? Okay. All right. So Chief Riddick, I have a question for you. Councilor Cortez covered the whole ATV question, so I won't go into that. They graced us with their presence on June 1st, right after the hanging of the pride flag, but I'm sure that you know all about that one. So my question to you is regarding the College Academy that's gonna run until July 7th. I believe it's gonna start on June 19th. And I'm just curious, how were those students? selected? What was the selection process? If you can share that, or as much of what you can share with us.
Yeah, I'll start it off, and then I will go to the person who created this, Assistant Chief Rob Rickabon, who was a patrol officer at the time. That was his idea. And we notify the schools, the colleges of the program. We send emails out, and then the kids come to us, and we pretty much first come, first serve. They do get college credit. And then as we get up to 22 or 24, we cut it out. We stop accepting applications. That's a manageable number for us. And it's a really good program. So that being said, Assistant Chief Rickabon, again, you did start this up. If you can add to that, please.
I hope my microphone's working. Am I good?
It's muffled, but yeah.
I disagree with everything the chief said.
If you want to go to ACT's office and use his really quick, just tell them how you started this and what the thought process was really quick. And to me, what that college academy exemplifies is the epitome of community policing and engagement. And it's really unique within the state. And that being said, Chief Rickabon.
It's exactly what Chief Riddick said. It's a first come, first serve program. We try to be as inclusive as possible to get as many students as we can. At times, we've actually increased staff members who volunteer their hours so we can get more students in the class. But when we first started, again, it was an outreach on behalf of the police department to use as a recruiting tool and to expose college students to law enforcement and the option of becoming a law enforcement officer, but also exposing them to other options as well. So a lot of them were criminal justice majors. After taking the 3-week course, they decided that maybe they don't want to become a police officer. So we had speakers come in such as social workers, probationary police officers, U.S. Postal Police, parole. So it allowed them to go into other areas to help people in our society as well.
Thank you, AC Rickabon, and thank you, Chief Riddick. So I just want to echo many of what my colleagues already stated in terms of all the work that you all are doing, both PD and FD and Public Works, beginning with the Memorial Day parade and the ceremony that was held after. And I believe, like the mayor said, there is so much work that goes on before the event in terms of preparation and all teams working together to collaborate the event become a success. And I know that June is going to be a very busy month for all of your staff and team and leadership. And I just want to, throw my thanks out and appreciation out to you all. I know the last Celebrate that I attended, I saw your particular team members, in position, and I'm always thankful for that. So I think we all learned when we were experiencing COVID how much we miss these things and how often we take these things for granted. And now that we're able to have these events again, I just, just really, really, really want to say thank you for all of the hard and diligent work that you all do, because you make it appear easy that we can walk around and exchange with family and friends and, create these wonderful memories. But it's because of the work that you all do to make that happen. So again, thank you in advance, because I know you have some busy weekends that are coming up in addition to your regular duties by staying on top of these knuckleheads. I know I'm being recorded in terms of the ATV people whining in and out of traffic and making hazardous issues for innocent people who are just trying to go about their daily lives. So again, thank you, and please, please, please express my support to your team, men and women in blue and red, white and blue, that are protecting all of us, you know, so that we can enjoy what we all take for granted. So again, thank you to Chief Priest, thank you to Chief Riddick, Town Manager Rick Ledwith, Bob McHugh, you and the CERT team. And again, I remember when we were in the preliminary discussions of emergency management and creating that whole CERT, and to see the growth of that is so awesome. And not only the growth, but how those individuals really take that work seriously and then they enjoy everything that they do. So again, that's all because of the leadership that you all bring to the table. So thank you. And I believe that will wrap in terms of our meeting this morning. Do we have any future agenda items? If we do not, I will call the meeting to adjourn. We went a little over, so I apologize. But if there isn't anything, we'll adjourn. And I want to say enjoy your day, enjoy the weekend, and I'm sure I'll see many of you at Celebrate.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.